I'm Dr. Amna Husain, board certified pediatrician, board certified lactation consultant, and mom. This week we're talking about something really important. What baby items should you buy new, and what can you possibly buy used? So if you're already a parent, you probably know this, but babies are expensive. And those babies grow up and they become toddlers and school-age children that continue to add to the expenses. So where can you possibly cut a corner in a safe way and purchase something used or be able to grab a hand-me-down from a friend or a family member? All right, so let's jump right into it with a car seat. This is one of the most important safety items that you're going to have to purchase for your child, and I really do highly recommend you purchase this item new. Here's why. Really, a new car seat is the only way to ensure that your car seat hasn't been damaged. Remember, a used car seat could have been damaged, it could have been broken, it could have been in a car accident, it could have been recalled, and there's really no way of you to know just by grossly inspecting it because it could appear normal. But let's say you're like me and you had a new baby, for example, a few years ago, and your infant car seat isn't expired yet. What do I mean by expired? So actually car seats do expire. Their parts do degrade over time. Instruction manuals can get updated. There's safety improvements that have been made. But let's assume that you check the expiration label, which could be a stamp or a sticker on the base of the car seat or on the underside of the car seat, and you see that your car seat is still good. As long as it hasn't been in a car accident and it's not expired, you are okay to use that car seat again for your next child. Now, once you meet that expiration date or your child's car seat has been in a car accident, you have to toss it. It's not something that you should keep anymore. But what about a stroller? So strollers have evolved a lot over time. They've become considerably safer and more turnkey. Actually, new safety standards went into effect in September of 2015. And those safety standards address stability, impact, and shoulder strap safety. And usually strollers after 2015 are okay to reuse. That being said, if you are reusing, I highly recommend you inspect these strollers in person. Take them for a test drive. Make sure that they have a smooth ride. Make sure they're sturdy and durable. Make sure there's no broken or loose parts. And definitely make sure you have the instruction manual. Now, considering that a stroller is really the workhorse of some of your baby gear, almost like a car seat, I do highly recommend investing in and purchasing a new stroller, especially if you are getting a car seat with it. You might find that as a travel system, there's a little bit of a discount there. Let's talk about another important workhorse, the crib. Crib safety standards are continuously being updated and regulated. For example, federal regulations back in 2011 actually prohibited having those drop-down crib railings. Now, I grew up with those cribs. That was a crib that my parents had, and my mom was a pediatrician, but listen, that is not safe anymore. So if you see those at yard sales, pass them by. Those drop-down crib railings are not safe. This is not something I would recommend that you use for your child. And essentially, given the importance of a safe sleeping space for your baby, a crib is best if purchased new. Now, I know that's not in everyone's budget, so let's talk about potentially a portable crib or a mini crib. Those could be options as well. They don't take up as much space, they're not as expensive as a full-size crib, and these could, again, still serve as a safe sleeping site for your baby. Now, again, if a mini crib is out of your budget or perhaps space is an issue, maybe a pack and play or a play yard is a good option. Play yard standards are also continuously updated, most recent as 2022, but a lot of the changes take into account the hinges that go into place to make sure that they lock and that they don't collapse down. You want to make sure that the mattress that comes with the pack and play is the original mattress, that it's a snug fit, right? Because you don't want any gaps in between that could make an unsafe sleeping situation. You want to make sure that the mesh is intact, that there's no holes or tears in the fabric, loose threads, things like that that could possibly injure your child. And even if you do have a crib, I highly recommend purchasing a pack and play because you can't always take your crib with you everywhere, but a pack and play is a great portable sleep option if you're on the road or if you're traveling via air. Now, what about a high chair? High chairs I have posted about a lot when it comes to safety, and I've definitely talked about how to determine if your child's ready for a high chair when it comes to starting solid foods. But really, high chairs nowadays are designed to last. So it may not be hard to find a good secondhand option. When you're looking for a high chair and you're purchasing one secondhand, I definitely, again, recommend checking it out in person. And here's why. One of the biggest risks with a high chair is a fall risk. So you want to find a high chair that has a 5-point harness the straps are intact, and that there's a central strap over the diapered area to make sure that the baby can't slide down. You'll also want to look for a wide base and locking wheels to make sure your child doesn't get injured or that the chair doesn't tip backward potentially. Now, getting to other practical matters, if you are going to purchase a high chair secondhand, you'll also want to inspect it in person to make sure that it meets your hygiene standards as well, right? Because these straps can get nasty, they can get dirty. And so you want to make sure that you take a look at it and inspect it to make sure that the straps are also clean so they not only meet your safety standards, but also your cleanliness standards. Speaking of cleanliness, let's move on to baby tubs. Baby tubs are, in my opinion, a relatively short-term item. You might be using it for the first couple of months of your child's life, but once your child's able to really sit up, crawl, and definitely stand up, you're not going to be using a baby tub very frequently. So if you are going to invest in one and purchase one secondhand, what kind of tub is best? Well, generally, I try to stay away from the cloth and mesh fabric ones because I find that these sometimes have mold on them, and so generally I try to stay away from those. But also the fabric can tear, so if you are purchasing one secondhand and you do have your eyes on one that's fabric, you'll want to inspect the fabric and make sure again that there's no tears or holes in it and that the fabric integrity is still really intact. Now, something really important, definitely avoid bath rings or inflatable tubs because these could actually set up an unsafe situation and can be dangerous for your baby. All right, next, let's talk about changing tables. Now, you've probably seen in past videos where I've said baby items you don't need, that changing tables aren't essential. But if you are looking for a changing table and you potentially purchase one secondhand, make sure that the safety strap is there. Now again, you and I both know, if you've seen my old videos, you know that children can still roll off. But if you are looking for one, you want something that has all of its parts intact, there's no chipped corners or chipping paint, and that there's no missing parts that sets up for, again, an unsafe situation. All right, one of my favorite baby items is a baby carrier. Having your hands free to do other items around the house or to take care of your other children if you have more than one child, a baby carrier can make a huge difference when it comes to efficiency. The way I like to think of them are actually two categories. So there's the fabric wraps, and then there's the more structured carriers. When I think of fabric wraps, I really think of a wrap or a carrier that's used more in infancy when the child is a little bit smaller and not as mobile. So the thing about these fabric wraps is they can get very stretchy over time. So you might have to wash it, dry it to make sure it's snug again, and all of that can have a wear and tear effect. So again, inspect the fabric, make sure that it's intact. There's no holes in the fabric, and that when you're able to use it, it still has a nice, tight, secure fit for you. Now with structured carriers, these are the kinds that have the buckles, the snaps. Again, you're going to want to inspect it in person. These are designed to fit parents' bodies in different ways, so make sure that it's able to fit you well, that the snaps, the buckles are intact, that you're able to tighten it to your body, and again, that you feel like you have a very secure, sturdy, snug fit when it comes to wearing your baby in it. All right, lastly, let's talk about breast pumps. This is really important. Secondhand breast pumps are everywhere, but essentially when it comes to consumer grade breast pumps, the FDA has recommended that you not reuse them because not only do you use them for pumping milk, but you could still pass and transmit viruses and bacteria to your baby doing this. Now, I get it. If it's your family member's breast pump that you completely trust them and that you know that they don't have a potentially communicable disease, then I understand. And sometimes you might just want to try out a second pump. Maybe you want to try out a hand pump, or you want to try out a hospital grade pump, or you want to try out a wearable pump in addition to the one that you have free through insurance from the Affordable Care Act. Then I get it. I would just say, really understand that you are taking potentially a risk and just consider the source when it comes to infection control. Again, with insurance and under the Affordable Care Act, you can purchase a breast pump new, which I highly, highly recommend. But I get it. As a lactation consultant, I understand that there are all types of pumps out there on the market and you might need to rent one or borrow one from a friend, but just think about the source from an infection control standpoint. All right, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions below, make sure you ask. If you want to contribute what you purchased secondhand or what you use secondhand, let me know. I know for sure that I have, like I said, reused my child's infant car seat because it's not expired yet. I have reused clothes. I have reused toys. All of those things. Especially if I'm borrowing toys though from a friend, I always sanitize them. There's no broken, loose, missing parts. I'm okay with my child using them. If they're cloth toys, I always throw them in the wash first. But I'm okay with reusing those items. If you've reused something from your child, make sure you let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week. Bye.